I'm here with Chris Hipkin, the Labour leader and Prime Minister. Welcome to the Bay, Prime Minister.
It's great to be here. Yeah, it's a beautiful day too.
It is a good day. Now, the big news today is that you've just, as Labour leader, pledged that you'll build a new hospital for Hawke's Bay. Why now? I mean, you've had quite a while to announce this. Why suddenly now?
Oh, we've had some really, passionate advocacy from your local members of Parliament. Anna Hawke in particular has been relentless on making sure that, Cabinet ministers and the Minister of Health in particular know how important it is that we get a new hospital here. We knew when we came into government that our hospitals around the country were really badly run down. We've been working our way through them. We said some time ago that Hawke's Bay was next cab off the rank. And so I'm really pleased to be able to make the announcement today that actually we're going to do it.
And where's the money coming from?
So it's coming out of what we call the multi-year capital allowance. So the government set aside quite a lot of funding for capital works for schools and hospitals in particular, and this is coming out of the funding that we've set aside for that.
Okay. Now, National claim that they would have already be on the road to getting the hospital built because they said they announced this in 2020. What do you say to that?
Their commitments in 2020 just weren't credible. Ultimately, we've been careful about managing the government's finances so that we can actually catch up on our health infrastructure. Our government over the last 6 years has spent 6 times more on hospital upgrades and health capital than the national government spent in the 9 years that they were in government. I think if you want a government that's investing in upgrading and improving our hospitals, it's clearly a Labour government that's going to do that.
Yeah. Now, there were some other announcements yesterday as well about tourism for Hawke's Bay and also a number of initiatives in Wairau as well. Are there any more such things coming before the election?
We've said that we'll support the communities affected by the cyclone right the way through. What we announced this week was a package of stuff that's about getting tourism moving again. It's about supporting some of the immediate business needs, including the need for, if you think about Wairoa, for example, for temporary accommodation for those who are coming in to support the rebuild. Yeah. So we've got, a package of announcements around that, extending the Wairoa airport runway, for example, so that, we can give them more resilience. Those things are all, relatively small projects that will make a difference. What we've said is that we'll continue to focus on, identifying and addressing needs as they arrive. After a big event like the cyclone, you don't always know what the needs are going to be on day one. You've got to keep working with the community to support it through. And that's going to be a process that'll be ongoing for some time.
Now, obviously, living in the community, we pick up a lot of sort of grumbling in that, and especially in affected communities, government, councils, whatever, haven't done enough. What do you say to that?
I acknowledge that for those who were, affected by the cyclone, it can feel like a very long, lonely journey, to get your issues resolved, whether that's you want certainty about whether you can move back into your house or exactly what's going to happen. We've moved as fast as we can. We're making sure that the local community, the local councils are still leading the response, but they're being supported by central government. If I look at the decisions around flood-affected areas, severely flood-affected areas, and I contrast that to those areas that were severely affected by the Canterbury earthquakes, we've actually made decisions faster than the last government did. So we have tried to build a response that's more nimble. But it does take time. You've got to get the geotechnical engineers in. There's only a limited number of those. You've got to have a process that means you're making good evidence-based decisions.
And are there any more announcements specifically related to cyclone recovery that are coming out?
I'm not sure there'll be any more in the next few weeks, but there'll certainly be more because this is going to be an ongoing process. Yeah,
and there's just an announcement that there's more funding for silt removal as well, which is obviously very important, especially with the winds coming up at the moment.
Yeah, silt removal is going to be an ongoing process for a while, I think. And we've put, I think it's about $60 or $70 million so far into supporting that, and we'll continue to, see this through.
Now, you've spent a morning here so far. What are you picking up speaking to people, and what are they saying to you?
I had a fantastic visit to the Watties factory. They even gave me my own branded bottle of tomato sauce, which was a bit of a highlight of the trip so far. But overall, I think the mood is optimistic about the future, but very aware that it's a challenging time right at the moment.
Yeah.
So I think we have got a great future to look forward to as a country, but right now, particularly with issues around the cost of living, families are feeling the crunch from that. But the latest economic data that we saw out today shows that the economy's turned the corner. The economy's growing again, even in spite of the fact that we've had the cyclones and the flooding to deal with this year. The economy's growing again, inflation's coming back down. That's positive because it means over time interest rates will come back down. It means that food prices won't continue to go up to the extent that they have been. So those are all positives.
Yeah.
What we've got to do is make sure that wages are growing so that people who feel like they've gone backwards during this cost of living spike can catch up again. We do that by growing wages.
Because I must say there are grumblings once again. People are talking about what has Labour done, that sort of thing. A lot of people, or some people, saying time for a change kind of thing. Anna Hawke did come in on the red wave last time as it took. Stuart Nash was the incumbent. Are you confident you're going to be able to retain those two seats, and also Ikaro Rafferty with Mecca moving over to Te Pāti Māori?
I'm very confident about all three seats. I've been on the ground with Anna, for example, and I've seen how hard she has been working over the last 3 years to really passionately advocate for her community.
Yeah.
And I think she's done an amazing job. And, if I think about the hospital, for example, she's been, really actively lobbying for that pretty much from the time she arrived in Parliament, and has really thoughtfully supported the community through the period post-cyclone. We've got an outstanding candidate. Oh, look, he's sitting right there. Outstanding candidate, Mark Hutchison, to take over from Stuart Nash here in Napier, who I think will be a real asset to our Parliament and to our Labour team. And Kushla Tangaire Manuel is just really already, making her presence felt, and she hasn't even arrived at Parliament yet. So I think she'd be a really amazing advocate for Ikaro Rafferty.
Yeah, because also ACT seems to be gaining ground in Hawke's Bay as well, and David Seymour comes in and he's got quite a few people coming to his meetings. What do you say about that sort of right building of the right? Is the country moving to the right, do you think?
I think ultimately it shows a dissatisfaction with the National Party. I think New Zealanders accept that the National Party don't really have any new ideas and they just want to take New Zealand backwards. And so I think people, on the right are looking around for alternatives, and that means that they're looking at ACT and so on. But I'm really confident that as our campaign builds momentum, which I feel like it has been over the last few weeks, that we're going to see an increase in support for Labour. And we'll see how it all shakes out on election night. Now,
there's been a lot of talk about from National saying that the gangs support you and endorse you, and that. And there is talk. Mark Mitchell put out a media release today saying that the gangs have actually been holding Labour endorsement meetings, and they've held one in the electorates here. What do you say to that? Do you want the gangs voting for you?
I don't want the gangs voting for me, and I don't want, I don't think gangs play a useful or constructive role in society at all. I'm certainly not interested in their votes. What I am interested in is supporting the police to deal with gang offending. 50,000 charges have been laid against gang members over the last year as a result of Operation Cobalt, which was an operation the police put in place during the time that I was Minister of Police. I think where gangs are breaking the law, they should be held accountable for that.
Yeah. And just turning to, say you do lose the election, are you going to stay in Parliament?
I haven't even thought about it. Absolutely focused for the next 3 and a bit weeks on winning the election.
So what would you say to people who are undecided at the moment? Why should they vote for you as opposed to National? Because as they say, governments aren't elected, they're kicked out.
This is a very, very important election. I know it's been tough going for New Zealand, but the economy is turning the corner. Things are getting better. We're tackling some of those big long-term challenges around underinvestment in our education system, our health system, our infrastructure, things like roads, for example. And we're supporting the cyclone-affected regions through a really difficult time. We've got a plan that's focused on supporting people through the cost of living by doing practical things like removing the prescription payment, which stops people getting their medicine, taking GST off fruit and veggies, which makes it easier for people to live and eat healthily, cutting the cost of early childhood education. These are things that are going to make a difference for families The alternative is to go backwards to the policies that gave us the housing crisis, that ran down our health system, that ran down our education system, and that left the country worse off. I don't think we should go back to that approach. I think we should keep moving forward.
Chris Hipkins, thank you for your time today and all the best for the elections.
Thank you.
Thank you.